USB audio playback is one of the most important part of modern hi-fi music playback. For that, let's find out how much of improvement this kind of USB isolation device can deliver. Hello everyone, welcome to Tabama Hi-Fi Review channel. Today I would like to share my experience of using Hi-Fi Audio iPurifier Silent Power USB Galvanic Isolator Noise Shaping Retransferring all digital data perfectly possible using this device dual in and dual out USB-C power supply, as well as it feature grounding point. Only downside for me is when I try to use two components together like Sony HAPC-1ES music server USB-C connector and USB 3.0 connector from Eversolo T8 digital transport. When I do that, whichever connect the last get the prioritized. That's the slight downside. If they have slider switch or something, that'd be really good option for that. So this one works like a USB hub as well. The way that they design it, galvanic isolation is digital signal internally digitally isolated in bit perfect transition. So that is the well-known the isolation, noise shaping, noise cancellation method. Another noise control and isolation and noise shaping method is active noise cancellation, like we have in that power active noise cancellation headphones. So which is they do like incoming digital noise or RFI or whatever the noise that it capture, it reconverted to different phase. Then it actively cancel itself out. So that's how it works. Plus ISO design that it offer. This one retail for $249. Combination of iGalvanic, Hi-Fi power, and like 3 devices that they produced before this. So this one is best of all 3, and they combine everything to give you best performance out for your money. So let's find out this Hi-Fi Audio iPurifier can improve the sound in my system. In this main system featuring 20 amp dedicated line as well as Vinshine Audio tie-hand power supply, power reconditioner, and power generator. Right, those are components that connected. All my digital components are connected to that. So when I started using with Eversolo Z10 and this iPurifier Silent Power, I don't notice major differences in sound quality, right? So I was like, okay, I understand, because Eversolo Z10 offer incredible galvanic isolated USB output as well as all the ground isolated feature that come with it. So it's not benefited from this device. So I switched it over to that X2 TA32 tube hybrid DAC and headphone stage combination using USB cable directly connected from Eversolo T8. First, I try with direct connection, right? Then I switch it over to this iPurifier USB input and I listen it again. So there are slight differences in, noticeably differences in sound and background noise control. It's pretty obvious in terms of different making in especially cleaner and clearer background with more precise stereo imaging that it can produce is quite impressive, right? So I was like, oh, okay, this is nice improvement. I'm using Hi-Fi Silent Power 5-volt power supply into this USB-C port. When I disconnect the power supply and when I use that, it sounds okay, but sound is a bit light and a little bit shallow in depth and those kind of areas. So I end up going back to USB-C port power supply from iFi Silent Power 5-volt power supply unit. Most of my listening experience is based on that power supply and this iPurifier combination. So I went back to X2O TA32 back to back, and I was like, okay, these are nice improvements, but it could be a little better. I have Custard Audio U26, not to that level, but it gets the job done with pretty good noise control, background noise, and isolation of USB connectors. Only thing that I wish that I can connect both of them simultaneously, 2 in, 2 out. Because if I connect both and one is gonna prioritize, so we're not gonna get both outputs and receiving from both sources. So that's the one thing that a little downside for me. So after that, I switched it over to Sony HAB-Z1ES, stay using X2O TA32 as a USB DAC using ROM Muse IC chip in there. When I try with Sony HAB-Z1ES USB-C connection and using USB A to B out to TA32. Back and forth switching with and without this device, iPurifier, it's not noticeable with Sony HAB-Z1ES. So that is depending on what source you are using. Let's say you are using computer as your source or Android system, even if that is a dedicated digital streaming transport, it's not gonna have like Sony kind of design from ground up, everything designed based on Linux system, solely dedicated for music playback system. So that is not benefited from this device. So if you are using Sony Music Server or those kind of component with very intensively designed for that sole purpose, you will not get benefits from it. But if your source is portable streamer like VM or even computers, you will get great benefits from this iPurifier. I was using a few different tracks, and especially tracks such as Eva Cassidy Songbird, right? That track has intro noise. There's a little bit of tape hissing noise. It's noticeable. I mean, obviously noticeable if I'm using direct connection, right? Directly from Eva Solo TA to TA32. As soon as I put this iPurifier between those two components, those kind of background white noise and tape hiss and those areas are much reduced. Even my sound sample tracks such as Breaking Silence by Janice Ian, right? Her vocals are more three-dimensional and more pronounced center image kind of improvements that it can produce is pretty impressive for $249. So I was trying back and forth, and finally I changed DAC to Top-End DX9 discrete, USB cable directly connected to it, and put in this device iPurifier in between, with or without, and I tried that, right? Oh, by the way, all my music listening, I use this Accuphase E4000 and this S1EX towers from Pioneer TAD Design. So when I switch my DAC to Top-End DX9 discrete, I try with this iPurifier and without iPurifier. The difference is totally noticeable. With iPurifier, sound quality is not great. Overall sound staging and width, especially depth and density of the sound staging, is much reduced. So as I know this is not it, and I swap it back out and I tried directly to the DX9 discrete, and that's where like real analog, like 1-bit bitstream sound signature that I enjoy all the time. So this one can make it sound like more digital and lighter and thinner sounding. So I would not recommend this iPurifier for if you are owner of Top-End discrete DACs in general. So my whole point is these kind of device will work in certain conditions. But if your component have good quality isolated USB management system, it may not get great benefit. In other words, it may even make it worse, like topping DX9 discrete and this purifier combination. Because of that, I was like, okay, let's try with Custard Audio or the liquid DR70 R2R deck that I use on my desktop all the time. So I moved it here and connected to Eva Solo T8. I tried it again with and without this iPurifier Pro, and sound quality improvements is noticeable. So when I tried the DR70 with or without this i5 iPurifier Pro, is noticeable improvements in isolation of background noise, clean and precise notes with good refinements, improvements in across the frequency range from lowest of the notes to highest frequency extension. Best of all, most precise stereo image that this one can improve is one of the most impressive improvement that we can hear. That's what I have in Sound Sample as well. So basically, affordable component can get great benefits from these kind of devices. Using this kind of USB noise cancelling device between entry-level component with USB connection can improve the sound. You will hear the sound sample back to back. So DR70 itself sound is very good. One of the most enjoyable, more than good enough for the money and exceeding in terms of sonic quality, right? Time to time, the background noise can be a little bit noticeable. Hence, that is an entry-level product. So adding these kind of device can improve the noise control, sonic quality and refinements, and sharper and more precise stereo image that it can produce together is good improvements for $249 device. So my favorite part of this i5 iPurifier is work well with those kind of components. But if your DAC have highly capable USB DAC converters, I won't bother. You need to look something else. So if your main source of digital music playback is streamers or computer-based, Android-based, you can totally get the benefit using this kind of device in between your DAC, and especially if your DAC is around $500 price range, I can easily, totally recommend you to try this in your system. That is the experience that I like to share with you. Thank you for watching and happy listening.
Come into my solitude, though I weary be. Come into my tenderness, dream along with me. Listen to the whispers sing, listen to the singer shout. Come into my solitude, be my big mouth. Thoughts unspoken, thoughts unsaid, lies of hearth and home. Children broken on the bed and left to lie alone. Things you talk around, scum you choke on down. Come into my solitude, step on sacred ground. We were speaking of values and violence, breaking silence. Fathers who are lovers to the daughters that they own. Mothers who don't leave a child a single safety zone. People so unhinged that death is much too kind. Come into my solitude, step over that line. Thought it was the only one. Thought it was the only. Thought it was the only one. solitude. Welcome to the wheel. Come into this wonderland of wounds that will not heal. Walls that do not speak, steps that do not sound. Come into my solitude. Burn this building down. Come into my solitude, though I weary be. Come into my tenderness, dream along with me. Listen to the whispers sing, listen to the singer shout. Come into my solitude, meet my big mouth. Thoughts unspoken, thoughts unsaid, lies of hearth and home. Children broken on the bed and left to lie alone. Things you talk around, scum you choke on down. Come into my solitude, step on sacred ground. We were speaking of values and violence, breaking silence. Fathers who are lovers to the daughters that they own. Mothers who don't leave a child a single safety zone. People so unhinged that death is much too kind. Come into my solitude, step over that line. Thought I was the only one. Thought I was the only. Thought I was the only one. We were speaking of values and violence, breaking silence. Come into my solitude, welcome to the wheel. Come into this wonderland of wounds that will not heal. Walls that do not speak, steps that do not sound. Come in